Hello, everybody. This is James Krishnarik here, live for another live podcast of real steel sports on Spreaker web radio. It's been a little while since I've done a show. I've been working with some friends on some other videos for YouTube, and ultimately just been having a good time enjoying my summer. But coming up is the biggest tennis tournament of the summer, starting tomorrow. Wimbledon. It's on. The grass. The Strawberries and Cream, the All England Lawn Tennis Club, it's on. And this year, let's put it this way, no shortage of drama will be this year at Wimbledon. I'm really looking forward to this tournament because I got a funny feeling this is going to be one to remember. Because this is the first time in a while where, yes, all of the top seeds have a chance at winning it, but none of them is a clear favorite. Think about it. Federer, people doubt whether he can still win a major. Djokovic has not been physically his best this year. Nadal has not physically been 100%. And Murray hasn't. So really, a lot of doubt swirls around the top players. And you look at the only guy to win a major this year other than Nadal, and that'd be Stan Wawrinka. He's been healthy. So, it just goes to show you, health this year has been a big reason why certain players are doing as good as they are. So, without further ado, let's get started. Looking at the gentlemen's singles draw this year at Wimbledon, notice that Djokovic is the top seed this year instead of Rafa Nadal, only because of the fact that Djokovic has had better success at Wimbledon in the past few years than Nadal has, winning the title in 2011, being a semifinalist in 2012, and getting the final in that in 2013. His section looks pretty good. You have to like Djokovic's chances to get the third round. I know a guy like a Robin Haase could potentially, give Djokovic a tough round the round of 32 if he even gets to that point. But honestly, I don't believe he's going to get to that point. So, way I see it right now, Djokovic at the top half, unless Radek Stepanek in the second round can be a tough matchup, I like him straight on through to the round of 16. The next section of the draw features 17th seeded Russian Mikhail Yuzny, a quarterfinalist year before, against 14th seeded and 2011 semifinalist Jo-Wilfried Tsonga, the Frenchman. I think Tsonga's got a really good chance to get through this section. Sam Querrey in the second round might potentially throw a monkey wrench into things, but Tsonga's beaten Federer here. He's given Djokovic some good matches. He's given Murray a tough time. He's beaten some very good players here. I would like him to think that this is a really good chance to get to the late stages of a major. And I believe he will get through it and take on Novak Djokovic. And then in the next section, we've got Ernest Gulbis, the 12th-seeded Latvian. His draw looks pretty promising straight on through to the round of 16. Fernando Verdasco has been having some good form lately, but if you look at his results, I'm liking to believe that he might win a couple of rounds, but I think Gulbis is playing really well at this point. He's had decent success on grass, and a semifinal in Roland Garros will give him plenty of confidence. So I look at, unless Sergei Stakhovsky can recreate the magic that he created last year when beating Federer and take him out in the second round, but I don't see that happening. In fact, Carlos Burlock would not be a shock if Burlock took him out easy. Give me Gulbis to the round of 16. And then the next section, we've got a pretty interesting section because we've got some guys that have quite a bit of talent. Marin Cilic has been in the semis of a Grand Slam. You look at Bernie Tomic, the young Aussie. You look at Berdych, the 6th-seeded Czech, who's been to a semifinal, ironically enough, here. I give Berdych the green light to the round of 16 to take on Ernest Gulbis, but again, anything can and would happen at this tournament. If I had to guess, I would say that he's probably playing some good ball right now. He's the number 6 seed. He's had a good year. And on grass in his career, he's been pretty good. It's taken pretty good efforts by guys like Roddick and guys like Djokovic to ultimately defeat him. So the first two round of 16 matchups, I believe, will feature Djokovic and Tsonga, and then Ernest Gulbis against Thomas Berdych. Next section, I think we're going to see pretty straightforward advancement. Actually, the next two. Because if you look at the two guys in this next two sections, that will be a fourth-round matchup. Andy Murray, the third-seeded Brit and defending champion, against Kevin Anderson, the 20th-seeded South African, with a big serve and a big frame. Those guys are probably the favorites to get through their particular sections. Think about it. I know Fabio Fognini, the 16th-seed Italian, is ultimately the highest seed, not Murray, in this section. Fabio's game is not one that really translates to grass. And because Anderson's got the big serve, I think if Anderson, plays pretty well, I think he gets to the fourth round. I believe could take on Murray and take a set off him, maybe even two, because Murray's not played that great this year, and I know he reached the French semifinals, but the draw was relatively beneficial, not very tough on him. And if you look at what happened when he lost to Nadal, a pretty worn down Nadal took him out fairly meekly, So yeah, I like Anderson through to the round of 16, take on Andy Murray. If there's anybody in that section who could potentially mess things up, you'd like him to believe would be Fabio Fognini, but again, that matchup looks almost like it's a definite, Murray and Anderson. And now moving on will be the final round of 16 matchup. We've got a section highlighted by Grigor Dimitrov and 7th-seeded Spaniard David Ferrer. This is a section that I believe we could potentially see some upsets, because think about it. Look at this section draw. I know Ferrer has been deep at Wimbledon into the second week before. I believe the quarters. But here's the thing. He's not played well this year, lost a lot of ranking points by not getting back to the French finals. And if you really just look at things from the perspective of how he's going to perform on grass, Grigor Dimitrov, I think, is the favorite to get to the quarterfinals, and here's why. I know he's been mentally inconsistent at times, but his form on grass has been good this year, winning the Aegon title. But I also like him to believe that against Ferrer on a grass court, he's got a chance because of his big game and because Ferrer this year has not had the best of results. I think that's a little detrimental to Ferrer's cause. So here's how I like the round of 16 matchups to play out. I like Djokovic to take on Tsonga, Gulbis to take on Berdych, Murray to take on Anderson, and Dimitrov to take on Ferrer. Now, how do I see that playing out? I see Djokovic easily dispatching Tsonga. I see no reason why you can't have a repeat of the French Open when he dispatched him in straight sets. I just think it's going to be really tough for Tsonga to keep up with him. And I know Tsonga has beaten Federer here, coming back from 2 sets down to do it. But recreating that magic here is going to be awfully tough, because if you just look at the way he's played this year, he's always been, a hit-or-miss guy. If he's hitting really good at Wimbledon, he could take out a couple of guys. If he's missing, he can go out in the second round. You just don't know. So I like Djokovic to the quarterfinals. I believe I think we're going to see Thomas Berdych. Berdych and Gulbis will be a rematch of the French quarterfinals, which Gulbis just dominated him. I don't think we're going to get that again here, because I know Gulbis' game should translate well to grass with a good big serve and a good forehand. But Berdych has done so much more damage in his career at Wimbledon than the French Open. He had a final round run to the French Open, the semifinal run in 2010, losing to Soderling. But if you take that away, his results at the French Open have been relatively meek. Whereas here, he's been consistently in the quarters, I believe the semis once, and of course his only Grand Slam final was here too. So Berdych has had more success here, and I think he'll use that, and he'll take out Gulbis in the round of 16. In the next round of 16 matchup, I like Murray. I just think that the home crowd, he's learning to use the home crowd the exact opposite way that Henman did. Henman, I think, let it get to him the second week of the major. I believe, and Murray, once he gets to the second week, he's so pumped up and he wants to win that I think the crowd backing him, I think, only just gives him more shivers up his spine and like, man, these guys got my back. I won't let them down. Whereas Henman was like, I can't let them down. Murray was like, I won't let them down. There's a difference, and I believe that psychological edge is why Murray has succeeded where Henman did not. And because Murray's a better all-round player in an era that's more conducive to all-round players. So I believe Murray in the round of 16 will defeat Kevin Anderson, and I believe he will be on the quarters to take on Grigor Dimitrov, who I believe will upset David Ferrer. In the quarters, we'll have Djokovic versus Berdych, and we'll have Murray versus Dimitrov. Dimitrov gave Nadal a good match in Australia, but went out meekly in the first round of the French, and then ultimately redeemed himself, his form, so to speak, heading into this tournament by winning the title in Queen's Club earlier a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was last weekend, I should say. But here's where things, I think, kind of get tough for him. Yes, he's given some guys some good matches, but I just think that on the grass, Murray, the defending champ, the home crowd, that's going to be too much for him. I really do, because think about it. Because Murray has all kind of game to do so much damage, and the fact is that he's still not 100% back from his back surgery. And he made the semis of the French Open. I know, again, I said the draw was a tough one, but anytime, even if you're a top player in this era and you reach the semis of a major, that's a pretty good accomplishment, considering it took one of the big guns in the game to beat you. So Murray right now, beating all the guys he should, and Dimitrov falls in that category. And I believe he will wait for Djokovic in the semis. Djokovic, I think, right now on grass, is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the world. You can make an argument that some players are better on clay amongst the top, like you think Ferrer's probably not a top 10 grass court player due to his game, or maybe some other guys would drop out, but Djokovic on grass, again, he's won this title in 2011. He's been in the final and been in the semis numerous times. I don't see any way Berdych beats him, because Berdych is so hit and miss. He's actually more inconsistent than Tsonga for a big reason. Is that Tsonga mentally can kind of go in and out, but when he's dialed in his game, you see it, and he's just playing and he's having fun. The opposite is for Berdych. Berdych is a guy that is backhand, his forehand being kind of herky-jerky, and his serves toss being pretty inconsistent. His game can break down. His game can break down and can cause himself some problems. And I believe that that's not necessarily going to happen, but 3 out of 5 against Djokovic on center court Wimbledon, I think, is a little too much for him. So I think Djokovic will move on to the final, to the semis, I should say. And in the semis, we'll get a rematch of last year's final between Djokovic and Murray. This is going to be a done deal, because I know Murray's a defending champ, and I know Djokovic has lost to him quite a few times in the last few years. But I got to give the clear edge to Djokovic here based on form in Grand Slams. We got a quarterfinal appearance in Australia, and we got a final round appearance at the French, which is much better than what Murray's managed to do. And I think that when you factor all that in, the fact that, from the baseline, Djokovic is a little more consistent, his serve is a little bigger, and the idea that, if he's got any regrets about the French Open, he can take out his anger here. You got to love Djokovic's chances to get to the final. I think he'll do that. Now let's start in the bottom half of the draw. We've got the 5th seed Stan Wawrinka highlighting in a section of the draw. And his round of 16 opponent, I believe, will be John Isner, the 9th seeded American. You know what? Honestly, scratch that. The more I look at this section, I got to give Feliciano Lopez some credit, because he really upped his positioning this year by getting the final of the tournament in Egon, losing to Dimitrov, and then winning this one. I think it was either Eastbourne and St. Augenbursch this past weekend, one of those two. But he beat Gasquet in the final, which is a big win, and it's a very good win for him. But again, I think Stan gets through his section, because there's no one in his section I think's got a chance to beat him. Maybe Dmitry Tursunov, if he plays as good as he does, if he can, but that'd be still a tall task. Stan Wawrinka will get through the round of 16 and play Lopez. And I said Isner because I remember the big serve and the big forehand, but he got a little bit of a boost from the seedings too. But Lopez right now on grass, he's more stock in him, and I'd say that he can take out Isner and probably, you can make an argument that Isner's serve is probably the biggest and the best serve in the game, but I think Lopez has got him beat from a lot of other positions, especially on grass where it's not necessarily the better player, but who's the more clever player. And Lopez has been playing tennis on grass a lot longer. So that round of 16 match will be Wawrinka and Lopez. Following that, we move to the next section featuring last year's surprise semifinalist Jerzy Janowicz, the 15th seeded Polish, versus Fourth seeded Roger Federer will also be in that section.